Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. This is Reservations. I'm Jeremy Blair.
And I'm Rain Whalen. And we're back in person again.
We are back in person again.
After a week. It feels like I haven't seen you in forever, my guy.
Well, you haven't because we did the other episode, right? Devil All the Time.
Devil all the time.
And then we took a week off.
Yes.
So that's like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You know? It's been a while.
That's true.
It's been a while.
After, so you're going to talk about Creed after you're making a post about can we ever forgive Nickelback?
First off, that's Stained, not Creed.
That's right.
And
I mean, come on.
I just
no offense to Aaron Davis,
who?
the lead singer of Stained.
I don't know his name.
He's a country singer now.
Is he?
Aaron something. Future Rain, fix it. See, it's been a while since I've called on Future Rain to fix something. Anyway, their voices sound somewhat similar.
You think so?
Yeah. But yeah, man, it feels like I'm seeing you, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before we get started, man, let's give just a shout out to all the great comedians and actors that we've lost in this past week.
Yeah, it's been a
lot.
Yeah, there's quite a few. I was shocked with Meatloaf.
Yeah, man. I woke up to that. So thank you for starting my day off on a depressing note.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. I told Ashley. I told her. Apparently, she missed the entire news, and I told her when she got off of work and was like, "Hey, like, I don't know if you saw, but Meatloaf died." And she was like, "What? What?"
Yeah, Meatloaf.
Shout out to Meatloaf.
Yeah, shout out to Meatloaf, man. Shout out to Meatloaf. Bob Saget.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Betty White, which I don't know if we covered last time. We probably did.
I don't think we did.
And Louis Anderson died too. So.
Yeah, we've lost so many great comedians and actors. 2022 is not off to a good start.
Who do you think's next?
Fuck, I don't want to know. I don't want to know who's next, man.
Okay, cool. Here's my guesses. No, all right, cool. Let's start guessing.
Okay, well, oh, dude, I swear to God, if the next person, so when I saw Louis Anderson, and even though I didn't see a lot of him, I knew who he was, but I was like, oh, that's still sad. Oh, and we also lost, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he played Hannibal Lecter in Hannibal Rising.
That's right.
His final thing that we're ever going to get to see him in is Moon Knight.
Yep.
Which I'm also very much looking forward to. So, yeah, just.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I didn't commit it to memory because I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Yeah, so. It's Future Rain will hook us up.
Something French.
Yeah. And he died as a way Frenchmen would in a skiing accident.
They do love to ski.
Yeah. Because they got those Alps. And speaking of French, great segue. That's a terrible thing.
Terrible segue.
I know. I just talked about a man dying, segueing into the movie that we're going to talk about. But anyway, just shout out to everyone we've lost in the past few weeks. So Jeremy,
shout out in heaven or in hell. We don't know. I don't know. I don't know if they've truly accepted Jesus Christ as Lord there.
Which is funny because we were literally not last week, but we literally just talked about a movie all about religion.
That's right. Yeah, we did.
Christ.
Yeah.
All right. So if you didn't tune in 2 weeks ago for our Devil All the Time episode, we are now in the end of season series. It feels like, you said it perfectly, it feels like a lifetime ago we were doing House and Irreversible. I
know. That was a long time ago.
I know. It was literally last year.
Yeah. Shut up. Yes, technically that is true. Yeah, so end of season series, the Before Trilogy, Richard Linklater.
Yes.
Really exciting stuff. I love these movies. I wouldn't consider myself into super romance movies, right?
Yeah, I know. When I was rewatching this, I was like, this is a very odd pick for Jeremy.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of romance movies usually, but this one is just so different. There's something about it that I just love.
Well, and shout out to Linklater.
Shout out to Linklater. Right.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about this when you were really kind of getting me into the Criterion Collection, and I was getting more serious about it. And you're like, "Well, dude, you got to get the Before Trilogy."
Got it.
And I was like, "What's that?" And you're like, "Dude, it's Richard Linklater," and I was like, "The guy who did School of Rock."
Yes.
And you're like, "Yes, get it." And so the first of the trilogy is Before Sunrise. Right, I said that right?
Yep, Before Sunrise.
Before Sunrise. Yeah, man. So before we get into the movie, I do want to say again, I did have that thought like, wow, this is very weird, even for Jeremy, because it is a romance, but a non-traditional romance movie.
Yeah.
Yes, it's guy meets girl, but instead of guy meets girl, they fall in love, they get married. Then there's fractures in the relationship.
Yeah.
And you think they're not going to make it. And then they make up, and then that's the movie. There you go. I just summarized every romance movie ever that Hallmark has ever made. But this isn't like that.
No.
Yes, it's boy meets girl, but it doesn't follow that format. And it's a testament to, Richard Linklater, man. He... Has he won an Academy Award?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Why the fuck has he not?
I don't know.
If he hasn't.
Well, he was up for Boyhood, for sure.
Dude,
I remember that.
Come on. And
I remember he was up for Boyhood.
And man, and look, you told me that Boyhood is good, but it's not his best. Or not necessarily his best. It's not.
It is very good. And because it's very ambitious and it's well done for its ambition. It's just fun to watch that movie, and if you're like me and are a gigantic Ethan Hawke fan, then you're like, oh, he was doing was he doing Gattaca here? And then later it's like,
because that's right. It took 12 years for him to do this.
Oh, and then he was doing this movie there, and it's just fun to remember where they were in their careers and their lives during this time. He had already done this one.
Yeah. But yeah. So anyway, let's get to the movie. So Before Sunrise.
Yeah.
So Jeremy, would you like to paint the audience a word picture?
Sure. It is, like you said, the entire movie is what would traditionally take about 5 minutes in a romantic comedy.
Yeah.
Right? Or a romantic drama, whatever. It's the boy meets girl, right?
Yeah.
And the entire movie is just them getting to know one another and falling for one another through intellectual conversation.
Yeah.
Right? And of course, just being with the other. Right.
Yeah. Which, I've said it before on the show. I don't typically like things that, span over one day. Mm-hmm. Looking at You, final season of How I Met Your Mother. Even though I love that show, that should not have been done that way.
Awful.
But this felt more natural for it to be one day or one night.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel like they were trying to play with time just because it felt natural.
Yeah.
And again, man, I can't speak Linklater's praises enough, man. Yeah. Like the fact that this was just a simple idea for him, like what if these two characters just met and talked?
Yeah.
Like so simple, and it's so great.
Yeah, all right, so it is based ever so lightly on a real life experience of both Richard Linklater and Kim Krizan? Doesn't matter.
His co-writer.
Yes. And technically they had 4 writers because Ethan Hawke and Julie Depley. Yeah.
I don't know how to pronounce her last name.
Julie Depley also wrote dialogue and situations. So Kryzen, I just said it and I fucking forgot. Anyway, hers is just met a guy, walked around, talked for a long time, right? And felt a really strong connection. Linklater's is a little more sad. So Linklater's, I don't know if you saw this in the trivia or...
I started to watch it a little bit, and I got to that point, but I wanted to press pause because I wasn't giving it my full attention.
Yeah.
So I didn't finish it, but I did get to this point in that interview with him, Ethan Hawke, and the moderator.
Yeah. So he met a girl in Philadelphia, and they just hung out all night long. Right, very similar to this, just talking. Right, I would assume also similar conversations took place because Ethan Hawke is basically playing Richard Linklater.
Yeah.
Right. You can imagine Linklater being sort of an intellectual and being sort of like this sort of existential, philosophical nerd, right?
Yeah.
So,
oh yeah, 100%.
for sure. So, and they never saw each other again, right? And so it wouldn't be until 2010, okay? 2 of these have already come out.
Okay.
So he was hoping that by making this movie, they could reconnect, right? And 2010 rolls by. 2 of these have come out already. And he's working on the third one. The third one comes out in 12. And she had died in a car accident
Oh no.
before the first movie came out.
Oh no.
And so it's sort of that, like what we were talking about for Devil All the Time, it's that not knowing, right? And knowing that and looking back on, thinking back about, Linklater writing this movie, thinking about her, writing the next one, thinking about her, and then finding out that she had been dead for 20 years. It's wild.
Yeah, and it's almost sort of kind of
Not quite 20 years, but you get the idea.
yeah, but it also sort of kind of plays into what Celine says when they visit the graveyard. It's kind of ironic that would happen. I mean, it's sad for Richard, but like, it's very ironic that he would write, or at least someone wrote a bit of dialogue where she's talking about seeing this, and we'll circle back to this, everyone, seeing this 13-year-old girl's grave 10 years ago, and here it is 10 years later. I'm older than she was, and she'll always be 13. And, and I don't know, it's just interesting because kind of what you're saying is Richard wrote the first one hoping that she would see it and they could find each other.
Yeah.
Wrote the second one still thinking about her. So, he is sort of Celine in this kind of scenario.
Yeah. I mean,
it's just kind of ironic,
Yeah.
It's sad, very sad, and I hate that.
Without knowing that she had died, right?
Yeah, and I hate that for him, man.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's married though, isn't he?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So I mean, it's sad, and I'm sure it hurts or hurt at the time, but I'm sure it all works out too.
Because I think with something like this, in this situation, one that I've never found myself in.
Yeah, neither have I, man.
Because first off, I would have had to have had the courage
to actually
talk to a girl. Yeah. Okay. So
and be out of the country.
Yeah. So that's another interesting thing, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So I mean, imagine meeting someone for the first time, immediately having a connection, spending so much time with them uninterrupted, and then never seeing that person again. It's like, that emotion and that those feelings stay at that height, right? They never tend to dissipate. They never get the chance to, because you're just so fixated on that. And so it's almost like, that could have been the love of his life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know, like if he is married, I don't know anything about Linklater really, but let's assume he is.
Well, let's go track him down. He's a fellow Texan.
He is a fellow Texan.
Let's go track it. Let's go to his house.
What he was doing in Philadelphia, I do not know. But
I think he said he was there for a premiere, I think for Slacker or something like that, or
yes, he is married.
Or Dazed. I don't remember.
So yes, he is married, but it's almost like he'll never find someone like that again, right? Or, I'm surprised that he let it go. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah,
it would be hard for me to let that go. I would be constantly thinking about this woman forever.
Yeah.
If I had been in this situation, more than likely. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying, man. Because your emotional high, that can't be replicated. It can be replicated again, but it may not feel the same, and I get that, you know.
Which is why at the end of this movie, spoilers, audiences, which I so wish I could watch this movie without knowing there are 2 others.
Because audiences didn't think
they were like, oh my God.
That's it.
Are they ever going to see each other? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's what it was like for Linklater, right? And for Kim.
Yeah.
What's her face? Kim K.
All right, so I feel like we've been kind of beating it around. So everyone, yes. So this movie is stars Ethan Hawke and Julie. I'll let you say her name because I feel like I've been saying it wrong.
Delpy.
Sidebar. I realized while I was rewatching it, both of them are in the MCU. Ethan Hawke, now a newcomer, being in Moon Knight, and Julie Delpy was in Age of Ultron. She was like the head mistress of the Red Room where Black Widow was trained.
I did not know that.
I mean, she's got one scene in Age of Ultron, but one scene's all you need.
I did not know that.
Yeah, because Ashley.
That's wild. I don't remember that.
Because when I was watching it the first time, Ashley was like, "She looks familiar," and I was just kind of like looking through it. And what's funny is Ashley and I had literally just watched Age of Ultron right before I put this on. I was like, "Oh, holy shit!
Wow!
Should we just watch her in another movie?"
Good job.
But anyway, but yeah, so they meet. They have an amazing night together
in Vienna.
In Vienna.
Austria.
Obviously, Ethan Hawke is American.
Yes.
And Julie is French, which she is in real life. And it's just so... Everything about the movie is very just natural, you know, of how they met. And then how, you know, Ethan Hawke saying, like, I'll regret this if I don't ask you.
Yeah.
Will you come with me?
Yeah.
And it's just...
You're right. That's it. I did write 2 notes down.
Okay.
One of them was, and I swear to God, very natural is what I wrote down. That's the first thing I wrote down.
Yeah.
Because everything about it is just so down to earth, so believable, right? Nothing about this is sort of outlandish or over the top or unbelievable. Like, it's all completely grounded in reality, and not in so much so that it's almost like am I like eavesdropping on these people like talking?
No, you know? I kind of get that, man. Yeah. Like, yeah, because it is very intimate, and it is very natural. It feels like you're kind of stalking this couple all over Vienna, listening to their very intellectual conversations, and so I figured we weren't going to really get into what they talk about, but mainly how they respond to what they talk about. I was going to
ask you what your favorite one was.
See, that's hard because, again, I should have a counter for it. I think Future Range maybe should put up a counter for how many times we say how natural it is. But, you know, every conversation is so natural and how it's brought up. And
I'll tell you mine.
Okay, tell me
yours. So you
yours.
have time to think about it. So what I really like, because I like the concept and I like the idea of it, is when they're on the trolley and it's very reminiscent of The Graduate. I don't know if you...
I actually started watching that.
Okay.
But I wasn't...
You haven't gotten that far yet.
For some reason, I just wasn't feeling Dustin Hoffman that night.
I understand.
He had just gotten off the train. Like, I was jamming to Simon and Garfunkel, and I was like, I'm not feeling Dustin tonight. And so I put it back on the shelf.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent of the end of Simon and Garfunkel. Them, at least the framing and where they're sitting, and you know what. Anyway.
Oh no, yeah, no, I know what shot you're talking about, but I haven't made it. Anyway, so you liked the reincarnation talk.
I loved it. I liked the idea of Ethan Hawke saying that, you know, and it makes total sense. The amount of people changes over time; it gets bigger, right? And so, are we fractions of fractions of people, of souls, right? And I like the idea of that, and I thought it was really interesting, and it's sort of like this, you know, hippy dippy bullshit that, you know, Linklater is good at writing, right?
Yeah.
If you've seen like Everybody Wants Some or Dazed and Confused or anything,
well, of course I've seen Dazed and Confused. It's like right there, man.
Right. But if you've seen it, the audience, if you've seen any of those, you understand what I'm talking about, because there are moments where these people just talk to one another and they're having these very, I think stereotypically would be like a stoner conversation. And,
yeah.
Right.
I mean, it is kind of reminiscent of, I can't think of the character's name, but when they're all at Moon Tower partying and their stoner friend is like going off about like the fucking government and shit. And
or if we want to tie it in with one of our past episodes, it is like our friend in the overalls at the house party in A Ghost Story when he's talking.
Oh, shout out to our ghost story episode.
And another fellow Texan, David Lowry. So maybe
Yep.
it's a Texan thing. Maybe we just like to think of the existential when we're...
Maybe. Okay, so my favorite conversation, I mean, one of them that I really like is after the palm reader leaves. And and Ethan Hawke is just so... And actually, I agree with him. If they had to tell the truth, it would put their asses out of business.
Yeah.
But they don't tell the truth. And oddly enough, Ashley and I, we've been rewatching Supernatural, and we got to the episode where they go home and they see their psychic friend, Missouri Mosley.
Sure.
And she, a great character actress. I looked up her name earlier. I'm not going to do it now. But she's telling a customer, like, oh, like, your wife loves you. She's fine. Like, everything's great with your relationship. And then after the guy leaves, she's like, his wife's cheating on him. And Dean's like, why didn't you just tell him the truth? And she's like, because people aren't here to hear the truth. They want to hear something good.
Yeah.
And so I agree with Ethan Hawke that had she been honest, Celine wouldn't have liked the answer. And, Celine is very optimistic and is very like, well, no, like, it felt good to hear that. And he's like, of course it felt good. You paid her to tell you something good.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's one of them. I think the other one is when they talk about their parents.
Okay.
And how Ethan Hawke says how, like, parents kind of fuck up their kids.
Yeah.
How, like, his dad said that he never wanted him. And he was like, it felt like I was crashing a party.
Yeah.
And I like that conversation just because, like, it kind of summarizes what a lot of people feel about, in my opinion, at least, and maybe you can relate since we're both children of divorce. Shut the fuck up.
Whose fault is that?
But about, like, how parents, how we as kids view our own parents. I don't know. So out of the two, I would probably say the parents one is a little bit more.
Right on.
I lean more towards that. That's my favorite. But I don't know. Everything, all their conversations in the movie are just so great.
I know.
It's so good.
A runner-up is them in their pretend phone calls at the table. I love it because it's not just them being silly and being goofy, but it's also they're letting the other one know how they feel about them by playing this like role-playing game.
Yeah.
Right? By pretending to talk to someone else about them. Right? And I really like the way that plays out. And I like that they're able to be very honest about
it kind of forces
feelings.
them to be honest of how they're feeling. Okay, so we kind of went in this like zigzag.
Yeah, we're zigzagging.
Okay, everyone. So the movie is Ethan Hawke, Jesse, and Julie Delpy, Celine. They meet.
Jesse and Celine.
Jesse and Celine. They meet on a train headed to Vienna, and Jesse they start to talk on the train. And Jesse is immediately enamored with Celine and wants her to get off the train with him in Vienna because he's catching a flight to go home from Vienna. And he's like, you can always get on a train. And they spend the whole night walking around Vienna, experiencing life and talking about their own life, how they view the world, how they view love and politics and religion and existentialism and... It's, again, Future Rain might have to put up a counter. It's just so natural, man, and I love it, and I love that I watched it a second time because I told you, here's a little inside baseball for you folks listening. We were gonna record The Devil All the Time and this one back to back because I was going out of town, and we didn't want everyone to wait for a week, but. You had some stuff come up and we couldn't do it. And I not necessarily wasn't paying attention my first watch along, but I wasn't really honing in on what they were talking about. Yeah. So I'd actually appreciate that we waited a week that I could rewatch it. Yeah. Because it's so like, it's so rich, like with dialogue and like, I don't know, man. Like it's, like, I'd always try to save my fangirling moment for the end, but it's just so good. Yeah. So fucking good. And it's very basic in its structure. Just two people just have a conversation. Yeah. And And, you know, and I was kind of talking to you about this. Well, I said it in our teaser for this episode, is Linklater didn't have a huge budget for this movie, and it overdid its budget in the box office.
Yeah.
And, you know, and in a time where, you know, most movies now have a multi-million-dollar budget, you know, triple digits at least.
Just like $30.
Yeah, I think it was
Like,
actually, I think it was like
much,
10.
However much a Metro card is.
Yeah, because you know, like, because I should have watched it so I could have gone into this episode knowing, but most of the people they interact with, or at least what would be considered extras, are real people, right?
It would seem to be. Yeah.
Because that's what I would assume. I would assume the few people that actually talk to them are actors that they like the guys telling them about, like, oh, you should see our play about the cow.
Those guys I think were actors.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because they're credited.
Yeah.
So.
But I think everyone else.
Oh, they never went.
I know. Because he plays the cow, and I didn't catch it in my first watch along, but this one I did. It's all like, you know, and the cow acts like a human, and she smokes a cigarette with the hooves, and I was like, oh, see, that would have been funny to see.
Yeah.
Like a little cow just like.
With the hooves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's so. Okay, so I want to talk about how Jesse, in my opinion, in a few moments, it feels like he really offends Celine.
Okay.
Like with the palm reader, and she tells him, like, I didn't really like how you were talking about that. But in certain times when they're talking, it does seem like Jesse is being a little. I don't want to say rude, because I feel like rude is too simplistic. I just feel like he was being unintentionally rude, I guess. You know, like when they were right before, you know, Celine sees the posters for the exhibition. Mm-hmm. You know, I could tell that what he said, and of course, you know, it's like someone asking me what's my favorite movie. I can't remember what he said, but the look on her face just looked like she was offended, but she's so enamored with him that she's not necessarily going to let it bother her, but like she's going to try to just roll with it. You know, I mean, I really don't know what the point I was making here. I just kind of caught this watch along.
Well, it's like, you know, it is sort of in this stereotypical romance story. Mm-hmm. You do have conflict, right? In a bigger way. In this, you know, we still get conflict. We still get, you know, we still get feelings hurt.
Yeah.
Even if it's just for a moment, right?
Yeah.
And so we're getting these tropes that we would normally get throughout the time period of years.
Yeah.
Or a year or whatever in a typical romance movie, but here we're getting it in the span of
one night,
basically real time.
Yeah, and you know, and it's, and you know, and speaking of hurt feelings, you know, they bring that up at one point, you know, because he says, "Were we about to have our first fight?" Mm-hmm. And you know, and she kind of seems like she wasn't really paying attention, but you know, then she says something which I kind of agree with, was, why is that a bad thing? Everyone thinks conflict is so horrible, but like it's better to have conflict than not. Like, because then you can grow from the conflict. Because if there's no conflict, then you can't grow together, not only as individual people, but as a couple, you can't grow from that.
Right.
And even though couples used loosely here, like if this was just a one-off movie, couple would be very loose.
Yeah.
I haven't watched the other two movies yet. I want to go in blind, but I have read a little bit ahead.
Yeah.
In their relationship in the next two movies. But
Boo.
Shut up.
Boo.
Fuck you.
Okay.
But anyway, it's you know, and it's so interesting too that
it could also be a cultural thing, right?
True.
I mean, they start off, you know, when they meet in that joking, oh, I'm American. She goes, oh, you are? He was like, yeah, no fucking shit. You know what I mean? Pretty much. Like, yeah, I know.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, and his whole, like, oh, yeah, I'm the dumb, crude American. I don't speak any other languages,
Yeah. Which we don't. I don't speak any other languages.
No. Well, I mean, and just like Jesse, I didn't take 4 years of Spanish in high school, but I took 2 years. I took my required 2 years of Spanish.
That's right.
And all I remember how to do is count to 30. And that's it. And obviously, good morning, good night, and hello.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Right.
I could not hold a conversation to save my life.
Yeah. No way. Yeah, what are we, Haley? Yeah. No.
Shout out to Haley.
Haley speaks Spanish.
Who doesn't watch this?
No.
Do you make her sometimes?
No,
Like, babe, you gotta listen. Listen.
Never. Never, ever, ever. No.
I don't make Ashley either.
It'd be weird if she was really into it, I think.
Why?
I don't know, because it's like, I don't know. It'd be weird. I don't know. I don't want her to...
Well, I've been saying that we need to get her on for at least one episode.
For sure.
I mean, technically, Ashley's been on the podcast. She hasn't been on with us, but Ashley's been on. So.
That's true. Okay, fine. We'll get her on.
I know we'll...
Won't be one of these, I'll tell you that.
That's all right. I told you that I'd be down to do a whole episode over the Winter Soldier, because I know she's seen that.
She loves Captain America.
Dude, and anyway, yeah, well, conversation for later.
Conversation for another time.
But yeah, man, and so, okay. So, I also love to... So, the audience, the plot is very simple. They spend a whole night talking. So now I want to talk more about, like, truthfully, the technicality, more so like in the camera movements. The camera is just very static. And I love that. I mean, yeah, there's a few tracking shots of them walking, which is a majority of the movie, but there are a few static shots, and it's just it's very intimate. And again, I will agree with you it feels like we shouldn't be watching this.
It's almost voyeuristic, but it's Roger Ebert said it's like a documentary with an invisible camera.
Yeah.
Right? And what I love most about the camera is that and why it just feels so real is that the camera doesn't cut away. Yeah. These are very long shots of them just talking to one another.
Yeah, I think the quickest, I would say, cutaway is when the song that we opened the show with, our listeners will hear, a YouTube audience won't get to hear, unfortunately.
Yeah, sorry, guys.
But our listeners heard, when they play that song, when they're at the record store, that's when we're getting our most kind of quick cuts, because we're seeing them, leave the record store and then, just kind of walk down the street and then run to catch the tram and then, that kind of thing. But then after that, we're back to these long, very drawn out static shots of them talking and
yeah, we've been talking a lot about the dialogue.
Yeah.
I think my favorite moment in the film is in the listening booth when they're not talking.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And there's almost this sort of, I mean, we as an audience know that there's an unspoken thing between them already.
And the choreography is so good because they're looking at one another, but they're never looking at each other, right?
Yeah.
One will look away when the other is looking at them, right? So they never make eye contact in the listening booth.
Yeah.
Right?
Now that I will say, I've been in a situation sort of like that where like you want to look at the person, but you don't want them knowing you're looking at them.
Yeah.
And so then when you see their head start to turn, you're like, oh yeah.
Right.
Oh, ceiling. That's cool.
And it's and of course it's in the beginning of them,
kind of getting to really know each other.
And so it's almost like they're both super into the other one, right? Mm-hmm. Super into. This is super
high school.
This is super intellectual. That's what this is. This is very academic the way I'm speaking. But
you should get a pipe.
But they're very attracted to one another, right?
Yeah.
But they don't want the other to know just how much yet, right? Because they don't know. They're playing this one moment at a time. They're not, honestly, not planning on spending the entire night together, right?
Yeah. I think. It's almost sort of like the night goes how they how they kind of play it off, because they go to at least 3 cafes.
Yeah, they go to a lot of places.
They go to 3 cafes. They walk up and down pretty much all over Vienna, and it definitely seems like they are kind of sort of playing it by ear and sort of, I guess, how the other is feeling. And
but like in this booth, right?
Yeah.
This unspoken attraction to one another. There's going to be another moment like this in Before Sunset. So yeah, little teaser there.
Little tease.
And it just works so well. These two are remarkable.
Oh yeah, man. And I've seen quite a few of films with Ethan Hawke. Of course, I can't speak enough of Predestination. Shout out to our Predestination episode. I love Ethan Hawke. I think he's a fantastic actor. I can't wait for The Black Phone.
Oh, me either.
I saw that the IMDb score is a little low, but I don't give a shit. It's Scott Derrickson and it's Ethan Hawke. Who the fuck cares?
Yeah, Scott Derrickson. So
and it was just so interesting seeing him like this, seeing as, this, I read after I watched watched it the first time that, Jesse's considered to be this, self-proclaimed cynic on romance, but deep down he's actually a very big romantic. And I mean, clearly, he meets this woman after not but like 12 hours after breaking up with his own girlfriend. Meets this new girl and falls deeply in love with her. But still tries to play it off that he like, oh man, like, could you ever really commit yourself to one person forever?
Well, and she calls him out on it because he says something sort of cynical about romance, and then she goes, "Oh, Mister, oh please kiss me in the Ferris wheel.
Yeah,
oh, please, the lighting's so." He's like, "All right." It's they know each other so well without knowing each other at all. It's what makes their relationship so wonderful and so sought after, I think.
Well, and the movie is also very refreshing. For the time, this is 94. So, so the 90s, at this point in the 90s, were full of these, overly complicated love stories. The only one that springs to mind, besides this one that kind of breaks the mold, don't laugh at me, or maybe you might agree with me, is Jerry Maguire.
I love Jerry Maguire.
So do I, man.
I love Jerry Maguire.
Now, I don't really consider that a love story.
Now, hold on now.
Oh, shit. Oh, fuck.
Cameron Crowe, the director and writer of Jerry Maguire, calls it a romantic comedy for men. A romance movie for men. So it's designed for us to like it a whole bunch, but and who knows why.
Well, it's Tommy Cruise, though.
It's so good. I love Jerry Maguire.
But that was before this, though, right?
It's Jonathan Lipnicki, so it's like, that's what it is, the little kid,
and Cuba Gooding Jr., bro.
Yeah, Cuba. So good.
And Renee, I guess.
Zellweger.
And before she got she didn't get plastic surgery.
Yeah,
she got plastic surgery.
Hey, man, no way, man. She looks the same. She doesn't look smooth at all.
She doesn't look like a Barbie doll at all.
No, that was left out in the sun too long.
She's always looked like that.
I would never say that.
It looked like that just like in Chicago. But Jerry Maguire was before this, right? Or am I wrong?
I don't know.
I'm probably wrong. Future Rain will correct me.
Sure.
But anyway, so my point being is that this movie was very refreshing. I mean, granted, you and I were only one when this movie came out.
Right. Now the indie movement of this time, we're starting to pick up speed with these independent films that are a little more grounded, a little more down to earth, right? Those two things mean the same thing. And well, that was the same thing twice. And like another example would be another Ethan Hawke film, Reality Bites. Would be another example. It's a Ben Stiller.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's fine. It's not a big deal. Ben Stiller's in it. And so is Lisa Loeb, I think. Lisa Loeb, that's how she got famous, was the song Stay was in Reality Bites. It never. So, but films like that, sort of paved the way for films like this. Now, Reality Bites, I think, is like 91, so it wasn't even that long ago.
Okay.
Before this.
Well, anyway, the point I was just making was just that this is just so refreshing for the 90s because, you and I growing up in the 90s, I remembered a lot of the films my parents watched. I rewatched Toy Story till the tape broke. Toy
Story's good.
I mean, it is good, bro. But most of those films I feel like didn't have, I don't want to say lasting power. It didn't have sort of like the impact that I felt with this movie.
I wish I knew more romance films of that time because I don't, because again, it's not my favorite genre.
And again, the only one I can really think of that broke the mold for me in the 90s was Jerry Maguire, dude. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of other ones that weren't so good, and I can't at the moment.
Like Days of Thunder, another Tommy Cruise movie.
I'm not thinking of Tom Cruise movies. I think of
all
movies.
The Tom Cruise movies.
Oh my god, I'm thinking of maybe like.
I was about to say anything, but I was like, wait, no, that's 80s.
I was gonna say Hope Floats. that's a good
Splash. I don't.
Oh, that's 80s. I don't fucking
know.
That's 80s.
And it's not on Disney Plus. You corporate fucks.
Damn.
I don't want to see Splash at all.
Guys, those of you who can, give my boy a copy of Splash so you can watch that. Okay.
Yeah, man.
He's hurting over here with some Splash.
I need Tom Hanks and Daryl Hannah.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't?
No, I don't. Okay. I mean, I need more Tom Hanks in my life, but I don't need Daryl Hannah. Oh I'm good now. I'm good with Kill Bill. Anyways, point being is that this movie I feel like really broke the mold. Being so simple but yet not necessarily complicated, but it's so just
no, it's dense. Right? Yeah, it's simple in idea, but in when it comes to fruition, it's rich and dense, and you're right, not complex, but rich and dense. That's what I was gonna say.
I thought you were gonna try to flip him, but it's also dense.
It's
rich
and dense.
But yeah, and I also haven't seen a lot of Richard Linklater's movies. Obviously, I've seen Dazed and Confused. I've seen School of Rock.
Bad News Bears.
Bad News Bears.
Nice.
I'm trying to think of what other ones I've seen of his.
We need to see Scanner Darkly.
I've seen it, but I don't remember it.
You need to see Slacker. You need to see.
That's on my Criterion wish list. Slacker and Boyhood are on my Criterion wish list.
Yep, you gotta see Everybody Wants Some.
Isn't that the spiritual sequel to Dazed and Confused? As he says it.
Yeah.
I do want to see the new one he's doing. It's gonna take him 20 years to complete. He'll be 80 by the time it's over. Well, because I tried to see when they started production, and I think they started it in 2020. So, and he's barely 61, so he'll be 80 by the time it's over.
That's ambitious. Yeah. The good news is he can do other things while he's doing it.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is just one of the projects, because that's what he did with Boyhood. He did all of the movies we mentioned, save
Dazed and Confused.
He did during that time. So
yeah. But anyway, so it's just, he has such a specific view of the world,
I agree.
I remember seeing School of Rock. And, I mean, maybe potentially later on a future episode.
Oh, okay.
But I remember seeing School of Rock and thinking how just interesting it was that, first of all, had this happened in the real world, they would have found out that he was not a sub from the get-go. But just, and even Dazed and Confused. But of course, Dazed and Confused is also very niche because if you live in Austin, you know, because, but this is just so this movie is almost like a whole different monster in the fact that it doesn't feel like a Richard Linklater movie, but at the same time,
none of his films do, and I think that's part of the magic of Richard Linklater.
That he's not defined by
because he can go from Dazed and Confused, and then he can do.
Oh, and I forgot about Bernie. I really want to see that. I might add that to the list.
Cool. And then he can do A Scanner Darkly.
Yeah.
And then he can do Bad News Bears. And then he can do Before Sunrise, right?
You mean Before Sunset?
Whatever.
Oh, well, the movie you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he can do all of these things, and they're all very well done, very unique, and they're all the same person, right?
And I think what it is, and I'll probably say it fucking again in the next 2 episodes, is, he doesn't have like a trope like our boy Quentin. Quentin has tropes that are in his films. Lynch has tropes in his films.
Yeah, like when you turn it on, you know who it is.
You know it's a Lynch film. You know it's a Quentin Tarantino film. You know it's, for me, a Wes Anderson movie. You know it's, a Peter Jackson movie. But with Linklater, like, I completely forgot he had done Bad News Bears. And I was like, holy shit, he did fucking...
And we're not even talking... We like, there was, like, Me and Orson or something.
Yeah.
It was Zac Efron. And then, and then there's Newton Boys. And there's... First off, there's a phenomenal documentary about the life and career of Richard Linklater. And it's very, very good.
Wasn't it... I feel like I heard about it.
It's very good.
Yeah.
So, definitely check that out if you're a fan. I forgot. I think it's the first 21 years or something like that, or whatever. It's very good. And they go through his filmography, and you just, at the end of it, you're like, I can't believe one person did all of these, because they're just all so different.
Yeah.
Besides the sequels and the, spiritual sequels, stuff like that.
Yeah.
They're all just so different.
Yeah, and man, and it just... And this movie just, it feels... it feels so real, and it maybe you subconsciously did this, kind of tying it back to our season premiere of Irreversible. It just feels very real, and
I did not do that on purpose.
That's why I said subconsciously.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. If you listen once in a while,
To you? Oh, what to?
But no, like... I mean, again, and you probably didn't even do it subconsciously, but it feels very real that, and I can't wait to watch the other two, and I can't wait to talk about the other two.
Yeah.
Because I just really loved everything about the movie. I really wanted to watch, when I was going to rewatch it today, I really wanted to watch it with Ashley, but my body woke me up at 10 a.m. and I couldn't go back to sleep. And usually on the weekend...
that's what most people do.
Well, it's the weekend, and this is my last weekend off.
Yeah, no,
relative to this recording audience. And usually on the weekends, I let Ashley sleep in, so I was like, I'll just go ahead and watch it. It's not a big deal. But...
I did watch this one and the second one back to back.
Yeah, I like I said, I'm going to go in...
I mean, not this time, but when I saw them for the first time. Yeah. I watched this one, and then I watched...
Before
Sunset, back to back. And then the next day, I watched Midnight.
Yeah.
Because it was getting way too late. It was like fucking 2 a.m. I was like, I can't.
Yeah, we were up till 2 a.m. watching Supernatural. We watched Encanto first. And then we watched
was that good? I haven't seen that.
Are you joking?
I'm not joking. I have not seen it.
It was good.
I have not seen it.
Hang on. Let's close up the episode first.
Yeah.
So, Jeremy, are you ready to wrap up?
I am. I'm so happy you're enjoying it.
Yeah, man.
So far.
I mean...
They only get better.
Then that's... I mean...
To me, they only get better. The second one is my favorite.
So would you say... Now... No, I'm not even going to ask that because it wouldn't make sense. Because if they do get better, then I'm not going to ask that. So just scratch that.
I think they get
yeah, man. I can't wait. So... audience, again, we are in our end of season series, so next week is Before Sunset.
Yes.
This one was in 2002, correct?
2003, because it's 9 years.
9 years.
Yeah.
So 94. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I can't wait, man. I think this is the first time that we, for an end of season series, we've actually done sequels.
Yeah, I don't think we've done sequels before.
I mean, because technically last season, they were not necessarily sequels, but they were trilogy, just of different stories.
Right.
Next season might have something similar to that.
And I thought about doing just a redux of stage to screen.
Because there's so many others.
Because there's so many, right?
Yes,
And,
yeah.
I'll save it.
Yeah.
But I mean, not that this one wasn't, this one is kind of like that because, it's basically could be a stage performance.
Yeah, it could have,
right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's very dialogue heavy, which is what I like. So,
Yeah. All right, everyone. Well, we hope you enjoyed Before Sunrise, and we hope you are ready for this end of season series. And we'll see you next week for Before Sunset.